problems are pushing downwards, so pushing down here so we completely lose the lats. What can we do to try and correct that?
So, contrary to what you're saying, I think the other problem with lat activation is down to previous injuries.
Yeah.
So when people come in who've had, tweaked the shoulder pain's gone, but the activation of the muscles around the scapula has changed. So they've got this thing called scapular dyskinesis.
Okay.
Which basically means the scapula moves differently than it should do. So in that situation, addressing the changing the biomechanics of the muscles gives them better lat activation because it allows them to externally rotate.
Okay, okay.
So I think from an activation perspective, I think concentrate. I tend to use a thing like wall slides. We've talked about this on some of the Q&As.
Okay, yeah.
So from a wall slide perspective, we're not doing this necessarily from a shoulder health perspective. We're doing it because in a wall slide, you're concentrating on moving the scapula. So contrary to popular belief where people are just pushing the arms up and down,
okay,
we're thinking about pushing the scapulas round and kind of rotating around, which brings,
outwards.
Yeah, which brings you into that position where
yeah. So really try and think about almost flattening the scapula and the shoulder blade out. Don't ever think about pushing down on it. Now, another issue that we find is common is over-engagement of the traps.
Yeah.
Yes, we see a lot of this, and when people try and pull the lats out, what we try and do is we pull them out by really using the shoulders and out without realizing. And when we pull out using the shoulders, we tend to be more trap dominant in that pose.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you're trying to showcase a perfect X frame, we want a nice straight top line from one shoulder to another. So if you are trap dominant in that pose, what can we do to correct that?
So when you're doing things like your wall slides, those hanging exercises, the scapular pull-ups that we talked about.
Okay, yeah.
We'll talk about again in a second. You need to think about depressing the scapula. So as well as bringing it round the sides, you're also trying to think about drawing the upper traps down.
So draw almost this way by drawing the trap over the top. And back here. So I think that really comes into play with practicing the mechanics of it, the single arm, because when you're trying to think about both sides at the same time, the brain, because it's new as well, the brain kind of can't separate the two, the left and the right, all that well.
And I think that's where that handedness comes in. So if you're right-handed, you can have better control and feedback from that right side. So it's good to concentrate on the non-dominant side. Yeah.
You will find the more that you practice a single lat activation, it will really help to fire up the lats and improve on that lat activation and showcasing that X frame. So let's move down through the body and let's talk about the lower half. Now, rotation of the quads.
Yeah.
So this rotation, I always say to people, think about rotating from the top of the hip, so that comes from the hip flexor. Some people struggle with this, and usually it is a mobility thing, there's a tightness somewhere. So generally, if you are struggling to rotate out here, what would the common issue be?